Everybody, thank you for being here. My name is Billy Cladeck. I'm SVP of Revenue for Firework, one of the largest video commerce companies globally, definitely the largest in the Western market. And I have a really great panel here with me today to discuss NIL and the future of marketing in college sports. So with that, I'd love everybody just to do introductions and we can kick off the discussion.
Hello, I'm Stephen Farmer. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer for the Cladeck Collective. It's UGA's University of Georgia's Collective.
I'm Jessica Murphy, and I'm the Vice President of NIL Collectives for Innovative New Media, and we're partnered with Billy at Firework.
I'm Sophie Goldschmidt. I'm CEO of the US Ski and Snowboard organization.
We've got a great group here today to cover the topic of NIL, but I think we should probably start first with what is it? 2 years ago, the NCAA changed regulations to allow student athletes to earn an income off their name, image, and likeness. This is a monumental shift for NCAA sports and really changes how brands can really interact with student athletes, interact with that local community at a university level. And we've got some really great partners, and the ecosystem is continuing to change and evolve as the rules change. So one of the things I'd love to learn about today and have the group talk about is what is a NCAA collective, right? So Stephen, I'd love to start off there.
Like Billy said, 2 years ago we NCAA changed the rules, and so the Cladeck Collective was created about almost 2 years ago now. Well, I've been there for about 16 months. But our role is to facilitate our student athletes making money on their name, image, and likeness. And so we help them find deals, find brands, and we facilitate the payments to us through giving to the student athletes, and we provide them with financial services and doing their taxes and things like that to make sure that they understand what they're doing. We have a partner that does that for us and those kind of things. And so we are there to help the student athlete with their name, image, and likeness. We currently have 60 of our 120 football players under contract or so. And we've got several student athletes in men's basketball, soccer, tennis, all those things. So they are actually our employees, they're 1099 employees. So we bring in and help them bring in revenue. They do different things for us. And, it started out, my background is in fundraising. I was a fundraiser at UGA, at Tulane University, George Washington, Louisiana Monroe, several places. And that was the longest time at Georgia, which is my alma mater. So I was brought there to be a fundraiser, Chief Revenue Officer. That's my title. And so the model was donor-based. Every collective around the country, we were all like this. We're all donor-based, and that is, we realized a year and a half into it, it's not sustainable. And so now we're having to pivot to get more of our dollars through true name, image, and likeness deals and marketing. And that's why we've been fortunate enough and to partner with these guys to help us do the things that are more sustainable for a long-term situation. And that is name, image, and likeness. Going back and forth to the same donor who's also giving to buy tickets and giving to build new facilities and improve locker rooms and all those things. And then they come and ask them to give money. They go straight to an athlete. It's a harder ask a lot of times. So that's why we're very excited about the partnership with Innovative Media and Firework to move forward with those things.
Amazing. And Jess, I know that you do a lot of interacting with the brands and the student athletes and the collectives. So I'd just love to understand, what are the brands looking for from NIL? How are they getting involved?
Yeah, it's a good question. We've seen a couple iterations of brands getting involved with NIL. We always felt like NIL 1.0 might have been, a brand could sponsor an athlete's social post on Instagram, but they're not really sure where to go outside that. That's amazing. That's good brand awareness, but you don't really know who all the followers are. That athlete could be 12-year-olds who aren't able to purchase their product. And so for brands in this discussion with them, they want to find a way to get involved with the university. And sometimes they're locked out either by a price point to get in with the university sponsorship level or exclusivity. So the opportunity to pair up with the collective, they're still learning what a collective is as well. So now they realize they have the opportunity to partner with the student athletes of the University of Georgia, for instance, which is exciting for them because the affinity for Georgia, is national and local. And so they love that they're able to partner with student athletes and utilize them as, influencers per se. But also they're looking for a new way to do advertising in the digital space. So innovative new media and the Firework product has been really exciting for them because it's something they haven't seen. So now they're able to marry, the student athletes of Georgia with my product in a unique way where I can actually get data back, I can reach a larger audience, and it's a new play we haven't seen before, and it's different what other brands are doing. So they're really excited about it, and they didn't realize that they could partner with student athletes in this way. I think traditionally, you guys have probably all seen, the superstar quarterback that gets the large $1 million deal with the brand, and they're the spokesman, and that's awesome. But again, that's just the quarterback that gets the money. So one thing that we always talk about is we're excited to work with the collective and all the students athletes at Georgia because it's democratizing, the monetization for all athletes and not just the quarterback. And then this brand money goes towards all the student athletes of the collective.
That's very well put. Sophie, I would love to understand how NIL has impacted the US ski and snowboard team.
Yeah, I mean, it's had a positive impact for us. Quite a few of our athletes are in college, even when they turn sort of professional. So for us, we have 300 athletes that we fully fund through all their training, competition, everything they need to achieve their dreams to be the best in the world. And they're competing, in fact, our season started yesterday in Switzerland, and they're competing every weekend until April. We're working really hard to grow the profile of these athletes over here, but they are not as well recognised as some of the ones you've already mentioned, and as you probably appreciate just in general. So they are thinking already about life after competing to be the best in the world. So half of them are in college while they're competing on the World Cup circuit. Sometimes attending in person, colleges like Dartmouth that have a core system that means they can kind of work around the schedule, a lot of them doing remote learning and online. But at the moment, hopefully we're going to change and they get a lot more prize money and don't need to work when they finish, but the vast majority do. So therefore helping to fund themselves during college just to pay their living expenses. We cover all the training and all of that, but they still have other expenses, so this is kind of a game changer for them. Even $5,000, $10,000 means that they can live kind of a normal life and still compete, but be able to sort of invest in themselves. We actually do cover all of their tuition if they're not scholarshiped. Often they can't be scholarshiped because they can't compete in all the NCAA events because they compete on the World Cup. So we have sort of an extra layer of complexity, but NIL has just been a game changer. And we talk about democratizing for sure at our level of athlete, just given their profile being less than some of the others, just being able to get their stories out there, have a technological platform that can help to give them an opportunity to be known and for brands to find them. It's really, really key. So yeah, we're very supportive of this change and think it's been great.
And we hear the term democratizing access for student athletes, right? That means not just the one or two top athletes at every school, but access to all athletes. They're the authentic influencers out there at the ground level. So I'd love to learn also, maybe from the retail angles. I know Jess and Stephen, you guys have spoke to retailers. What's the tie into that local authenticity of that student athlete and how advertisers are trying to leverage all of that?
Yeah, I think what's exciting for these brands, and we were talking about an example of like a grocery like Kroger, right? That's a national brand, but locally within Athens, they want to draw in that local audience. They want to draw in that University of Georgia sports universe, that consumer. And so if they're able to tie in student athletes to their marketing, they're going to tie in that community. And then the community will think of Kroger as, their store and supporting the University of Georgia athletes. So for them, it's really exciting because it can be executed at a local level and just targeting that fan base versus, nationally, that's a national thing. So locally, it's really been exciting for them because, again, they want to tie it up to the University of Georgia. And And we work with, collectives all over the country, and it's no matter what city you go to. And I'm sure everyone has a college that they identify with, so you understand, that affinity for the school.
Thank you for sharing that. Stephen, we were chatting a little bit earlier about that same angle from the brand side, about democratizing access to universities for brands, right? So if you dive into that a little bit with your group?
Yeah, and one thing we come across, and then, just right on that, the local areas, maybe with the local things, and, some of the bigger brands and things we talk to, a lot of them worry about, I'll be tied to this one person, to this one student athlete, and they get a little scared because you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. We all remember what it was like when we were 18 to 22, and I was so glad there was not any video cameras following back when I was in college. And so I think we all can contest to that. But for example, Delta, they're worried about something. They're worried about being tied to one kid, and he or she does something stupid, and they're in the news one time. But working with the collective, they are signing up with UGA student athletes, not a UGA student athlete. And so if we're doing campaigns, billboard, those kind of things, most of that stuff digital, we can switch it out if something happens. Like I mentioned to you earlier, that we have all these student athletes under contract with us. They're actually on month-to-month contracts with us. They're renewable. There's morality clauses, and so there's if you enter the portal, which is a different subject altogether, but if you enter the portal, you're no longer employed by us. If you get arrested for certain things, if you're not academically eligible, all those things, and so you're signing up for the collective and being part of UGA athletic as far as collective, not an individual. And those are top players. They're not our employees. They're making their own money with their own agent. Good for them. That's the American way. That's great. I'm so happy for them. But we're taking care of all of the other ones that don't have that true signature voice out there. So we're able to help a lot more kids. When a company is paying us, they're getting into the pot that we can distribute throughout and those kind of things. And we can do one-offs, but it's a collective deal, so it's not a one-off brand. So we don't have to worry about our consumers don't have to worry about something ruining their brand because we're able to fit and switch a lot easier by not hitting it over.
Makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that I'd love to touch on, it's more of a question for Jessica and Sophie, in terms of the brands we all see out there in the press that are taking part in these NIL deals. They tend to be the bigger names, right? These really big name brands. But I think it's also been really interesting to see the smaller brands find a voice in this market through these athletes. Do you guys mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think a lot of the brands that we first approached the collectives with call them the friendlies of the university, right? They have an affinity to support these student athletes. They realize these student athletes at the school are celebrities and have a huge influence on what the consumers are going to buy in that area. So we talked to, smaller car dealerships. I mean, I don't want to call car dealerships small, but it's not at the national level. Local coffee, local licensing apparel places that they're excited to get involved and they can actually access this price point, and get creative with it too. That's the fun part about working with the student athletes is they've grown up in this digital age. They can get creative with it, and if they're utilizing a product, selling and someone sees that, people are going to want to buy it.
Yeah, no, I echo that, and I think we've obviously the technology platforms and the fact that it's content means it is very measurable. So it's actually quite an efficient buy as well. It's not like you've got to create signage or create some big activation. The content can be done in a very efficient way. And then, you can really delineate the different price points in, I think, a much broader way than we've ever been able to do before. So the timing of NIL kind of coming into play is perfect as well. So I think for companies like yours, just a big opportunity. And again, helping the athletes facilitate. They definitely need that broker or platform in between, just to get their message out there and make sure they're reaching the broadest audience and brand sort of potential that they can.
And I think something really cool about the Firework platform that the student athlete content lives on is it's a really clean, shoppable experience for the consumer. And people want quick and easy, right? They don't want to be taken to a bunch of different sites or click-throughs or make it complicated. And so this short shoppable content of, they want to watch the student athlete, and then they can purchase through the video as well. Is just, I think, a seamless transaction that consumers want to quickly do.
Yeah, and when I think about sports marketing in the college arena, I think about the big names that are tied to stadiums, right? You've got a Coke School, you've got a Pepsi School, you've got a Kroger Stadium. You know, that has blocked a lot of smaller brands from entering that university landscape. Have you been dealing with a bunch of that? And Steve, I know we chatted about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually got a call with a company that's based here in Austin on Monday. They're they will be, or trying to be competitor in the Gatorade Powerade of the world. And, you know, every NCAA school in the country pretty much says they bet to your Coke School, and they have exclusive deals with Powerade and Gatorade. So, you know, they're not allowed to do any advertising with a school like that. But now with the collectives and NIL, they can come to us and we've actually athletes to help them, advertise this energy drink or as a recovery drink and things like that. So we found that, and other smaller companies that just mentioned price point, we can accept a much lower price point than anything. And if most schools have the official link of University of Texas here in Austin or whatever, Delta's official airline of UG Athletics, so no other airline could ever do anything with UG Athletics, but they can probably come to us and we may not do that because we don't want to mess up any relationships, but we can look at it. We'll definitely look at that. We've looked at some other brands that want to get involved with University of Georgia athletes that couldn't previously because of price point and exclusivity, and now we allow them to have that opportunity to get involved with different schools, us, and then that works for the health collective across the board as well.
It's really well said. And as we start to work with more of these brands that are emerging, we're also seeing these athletes build their own brands as well. So, Jess, I know you've been involved heavily with a lot of the different collectives, not just Georgia. What are you seeing from the student athlete as they're building their own brand?
Yeah, I love working in this space because I played college tennis at Wisconsin, and so I'm very passionate about the female athletes also having the ability to build their brand, because traditionally we know football and basketball, they drive the revenue, like we all know this, and so there hasn't been as much opportunity for the female athletes because also, they can't get an NFL contract, they can't get an NBA contract, they can't get an MLB contract. It's different out there, and a lot of the professional female athletes, and you can probably speak to this, endorsements are where they get, a lot of their money. So I think it's just an incredible opportunity for the female athletes to start building their brand. And you don't have to be the best player on the team, but if you are marketable, you can build your brand, you can tie in that audience for a brand, go for it. So sometimes I'm like, when people talk about a certain athlete, I can't believe they're making this much money, they're not even the best. And I'm like, but they built their brand, and people are going to pay for that. So I love speaking with the collectives about different brands that want to use the female athletes. We're talking about L'Oreal and CPG products, and they know that their consumer is the female household that's probably making the decision or buying these products. So I think it's just fun to be a part of it and help expand where the traditional money might have gone.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that, and I think we're also at an interesting stage where the biggest athletes in the world are as big as they've ever been. I mean, they come through a sort of changing culture, but actually below that, I think a lot of different demographics and sectors are looking for people that are more relevant and relatable. So it's not the top stars, it's those that actually are fringe, maybe they're walk-ons or they're just not excelling quite like these super talents, which very few folks are fortunate enough to have. And so again, this kind of platform and opportunity really allows that to come through, but it's dependent on creativity. And we've all seen these very unexpected viral moments. Sometimes you don't know what's going to break through. And the beauty of content is a lot of it's actually quite cheap to create. So you can throw a lot of stuff out there and something's suddenly going to take off. But we see now time and time again, if it's from someone completely unknown and unexpected, but almost because of that, they're more relatable, and everyone can kind of buy into their story. Wow, that could be me, and therefore, they're good at representing a brand for that reason, because they really can connect with the masses in a way that a superstar can't. So I think NIL plays really well into that as well, and we're certainly seeing it with our athletes. Before NIL, we kind of had our own version of a content collective where our athletes can work with our brand partners on individual deals, and it wasn't the best ones, it wasn't the most successful ones that were getting the deals. It was just really interesting to see how that works. Sometimes the ones that are the famous are a little hungrier, a little bit more professional, don't have the same ego, come across as being more humble, and consumers love that in many instances. So again, I think it's just another example of it really democratizing it for everyone. There really is a place for everyone with this kind of structure.
Yeah, and I'd like to add into that. We got two young men on our football team that are both walk-ons that have just recently done a commercial from one of our cardio partnerships, and they both have great, completely different stories, but wonderful stories that the football nation love. And the car dealership selected these two, knowing they're not the biggest names, but they have a better story. And the stories are get out about a young man that came from had a single mother and got a lot of issues, but he's done well for himself, and it's pretty much taking him from a walk-on player to a scholarship player, not officially, but because of his name and some likeness, he's able to do that. And the other kid that they use is a player who was good enough to be a scholarship player, but honestly his family doesn't need it, so he's turned down a scholarship the last couple years if he doesn't truly need it, and he's allowed someone else to need it to have it. So they're two great stories that honestly wouldn't be able to be told nearly as much had name, image, likeness not come about, and so this company has used them for something like that, and it's just one of some good little bit that's a long story, one of them, and it's a major story that I don't have time to tell, but there are a lot of things like that with this platform.
And that's something we've talked a lot about the last couple of days and continue to talk about, but consumers identify with the storytelling. And everyone has a story why they went to the University of Georgia and are proud of that. And brands want to help tell that story as well. I love that story.
I think one of the big things we forget too is there's students first, right? So, before they were legally allowed to make money off their name, image, and likeness, everything was out of lawyer outside or auction of some sort of piece of sports equipment or a donation. How have you seen that change now that it's out in the open, it's public, and these kids are allowed to do this? Like, there's different platforms in terms of, physical autograph signing versus digital campaigns. So how are you guys seeing this evolve, either across the collective, across the brand, and otherwise?
Well, yeah, it's really changed the way the university and people do things, and a lot of our top players already have deals signed with different autograph type companies and memorabilia companies, and heck, there's a kid that's the number one recruit in the country in the state of Georgia that's a sophomore in high school that Georgia just passed the NIL law, he's at the high school student, he just signed a 6-figure deal as a high school student. And so, so then, yeah, it's amazing. He's a quarterback in Carrollton, Georgia. But it's changed the way things are done as far as, why student athletes look at places. Sometimes they look at, we're not allowed to recruit, we're not allowed to talk to them, anything like that, but they look at, how are our current student athletes, and that's across the board, not just football. And when I talk about that, sometimes I lean with football, but they look at how our women's basketball team are marketing themselves. They look at how our tennis player, we've got one of the best soccer players in the country that transferred from USC, and how she using that. So kids are looking at that now, and so the better job we do with y'all's help of marketing and branding these kids and their name, image, and likeness, that actually helps us as a school in the future by kids seeing that they do a good job of helping me with my image and my profile, so that actually helps us in the future with these great marketing teams that we have now.
Jessica, you made a point earlier about these kids building their own brand, right? Not everybody goes professional out of college. I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into that. And Sophie as well, who said something along the same lines, like not all these kids will go pro, or not all these kids will, do it for a long period of time. So, how is NIL helping these kids because now they're building a brand?
Yeah, I think NIL is really good opportunity for the college students to do something outside of just, their sport in class. So I think back when I was in college and I didn't have time for a job, there's no way, playing sport was my job. And getting a scholarship is amazing, but at the same time, your sport always trumps your school. That's just the reality. And if you're not in it, people don't see that. And so I think, these days with influencers, anyone can, start to make money in high school, whatever age you are. So the fact that college athletes can now do this and start building their brand, I think is amazing. So that's why I'm in this space. And I think one thing that is really, I forgot to mention this earlier, but when we're working with a brand campaign over the course of the year, they're always looking at, what their goals are each quarter for their KPIs and what they're trying to reach. And we help with Steven and the collectives mirror which athletes to use out throughout the year. Winter might be different for the hockey or basketball and football season, and same thing with the spring sports. So kind of forgot where I was going with this, but I'll pass the torch.
Yeah, no, I would say it's almost become part of their broader education. In addition to being an athlete studying, now they've got sort of a semi-brand management degree, and some of them, especially if they're studying marketing comms, really get into it. Others might need help, and actually for the broader university, USC and Snowboard, we're close to a couple of big universities, University of Utah, Brigham Young, and we've got a bunch of non-student athletes from those schools helping our student athletes with their brand work and helping them on social and create content, which I love. It's an awesome way just to sort of give back even more to those schools, which have been so supportive of us with scholarships. But I think the student athletes are also very proud of it. So to me, it just makes them even more well-rounded. And I think as they build those brand plans too, we've talked a lot about content, and that's obviously kind of the go-to, and not easy, but something that everyone can kind of wrap their arms around. But I think part of the brand plan is what is authentic to that athlete. For some, it might be experiences. For us, like taking them out on an amazing ski day or going to dinner with some of their clients. So I think there's also, as this becomes more established and people get more creative, it doesn't just need to be around content. I think part of that brand authenticity is what can that student athlete feel really comfortable doing. Some of them might not be that comfortable with the camera, and maybe they're not that funny or they don't have much to share, but they're amazing one-on-one and they can give someone a real money combat experience. So I'm kind of excited to see where that goes as well.
Yeah, I think we use the word authenticity quite a bit, right? Because all of these student athletes are content creators, whether they know it or not. Most of these kids are posting on social on their own. They're doing it without the guidance of a brand. But as you enter this NIL ecosystem, now they have the coaching from the collective. They have the coaching from the brand. And as you get more sophisticated and move forward in this, it's only going to get better. It's almost going to be like an extra class for them to take in school, that they're now learning how to build their own platform, get their own voice. And where I think this gets really interesting is looking at the big disparity there's been in the NCAA March Madness tournament every year. If we look at how the men's team is treated versus how the women's teams are treated, and with NIL coming in, we're really changing that environment. We're seeing huge beauty brands step up and say, hey, we want to sponsor an entire team. We want to see what these kids are doing. So with that, I'd love to talk a little bit more about the impact on female athletes and female sports as a whole, because I think it's really changing.
I'll add, we've got a University of Georgia grad who created her own makeup line that's made for running and sweating and things like that. And we had she wanted to work with the women's basketball team, so we had a women's basketball team come to her office. We've got kind of a mini studio in our downtown office. It actually was like an old frat house, to be honest with you. We had a studio and different things. And so we had the women's basketball team on do some little video things and things for us, and they were so excited they were leaving. And anyway, you need to sign up to our payment platform, and they're like, wow, like, we're sending y'all some money. You know, they did it because they thought it was cool and it was fun and that kind of thing. And then they realized they were actually getting, I think, $2,000 each, which it was just, awesome. So they were so excited and pumped about it. And they're like, wait a minute, I can actually, this was right in very, very, very early stages. And so there's some, the impact on them is huge. And and they were just shocked. They were like, sending money. They thought they were just doing something cool to help Georgia along. And they realized now we actually hear from them a lot more. Like, hey, when you do this kind of thing. So that's what we want. And that's what people want to do.
This is why we also love working with the collectives. Stephen talked about how the models change from traditional fundraising, and they have a small team and they're trying to do it all. So we love leaning in to help draw out these stories, and then how can we market these stories to grants? And we care very deeply about helping the collective and all the student athletes and assisting them because their bandwidth is stretched so much. So it's just about like digging out these stories from the athletes, these female athletes, these male athletes, and then how can we present it as a brand and tie it all together.
Yeah, I mean, on the women's sports side of things, we'll see it's sort of having its moment at the current time. In fact, one of the reasons I'm here these couple of days is thanks to Brandon Raiders to be here to meet all of you, but also the F1 Academy, which is the new women's series. Susie Walter's wife is sort of behind that, and there was a version of it last year that F1 now finally got behind it, and look, we're seeing this in kind of every sport, and clearly the fans are there, but they've struggled to be able to sometimes find the content and connect with the athletes because it's been so focused on the men's side of it because the data was there and the audiences were there, but I think people have been very pleasantly surprised by sort of if they see it, if you have it, they will come. And again, I think NIL is just sort of accelerating that. I mean, we saw it last year with some of the highest rated NCAA matches and events being women's, outweighing the men in various sports, which is awesome. And now they have a chance to get rewarded for it. And I think that at least inspires the next generation to want to get involved and more talent to come in to the system. So again, I think in some ways, college sports has now been at the forefront of sort of this acceleration of women's sports fandom, and I think that's only going to be heading in one direction, but it's great that they can now also get properly rewarded for it as well.
There's a cool example that we're utilizing with Ohio State's collective, and they have cheerleaders signed to their collective, and traditionally you probably wouldn't even think of the cheerleading spot, and there's a woman on the team, her name's Ocean Henthorn, and she's really marketable, and she has a great following, and she does the greatest content, and so they're going to do a shampoo line for her, and then that's, again, something a product can live within the Giant Eagle, and that's branded, and that's selling to the Ohio State University, or the whole state of Ohio, and that local area as well, and then that can be shoppable content to buy that shampoo, support the student athletes, so it can kind of tie together full circle like that.
Amazing. I think one of the biggest things too is like just even outside of the advertising opportunities, it's providing a platform for change, right? NIL as a whole has provided a massive platform for change in terms of accessibility to student athletes, accessibility to brands, and then also like in terms of how the younger generations look up now and they see these things changing, they're making their decisions to go to schools differently. Right? Some folks now can stay closer to home because they have the ability to get paid going to that local university rather than having to go across the country. Steve, are you guys seeing much of, like, in terms of location having an impact on NIL?
A little bit. It hasn't really changed on the football side, but some of the other sports it has. It definitely has changed. They'll look around and see how our student athletes are some of the smaller sports, or I guess the limit-based sports that are revenue generation sports, but see how things are working, what deals you are out there, and things like that. So it has kind of impacted a little bit about a little further reaching places out west, here in Texas a lot. Football, that was already kind of done on the national level, but our other sports, or our basketballs, our tennis, soccer, we just had a soccer player from California, and some things like that impacted it now. How's that one?
I know we're getting close on time, so as we get close to wrapping this up, I would love to learn where do we want to see NIL go? And I know that it's forever changing right now. This ecosystem is evolving. I see you've got a very unique take on where you want Georgia to go. We want to see them continue to rise and do what they're doing, but I would love to hear from the rest of the panel as well. Where do we want to see NIL go? What are the opportunities?
That's I think a big task to tackle, but I think what the cool thing about this space is it's ever changing and you have to be able to adapt with it every day. It's where we are today is going to be completely different than where you are in a year. For us as a company, we're really just trying to help, again, get that organic student athlete content out there, syndicate it to the masses, help bring in that revenue back to the collective and the student athletes, and just create a cycle where Stephen doesn't have to worry so much, but also just give an opportunity to all athletes. And I love the point Stephen said that when they're looking to come to the University of Georgia, they're looking at how does the women's basketball team get marketed? How are they building their brand? How do the Olympic sports? What is the football team doing? They're looking at it as a holistic picture to help them, I think think a little longer term past just college, which is hard to do. So I think overall our goal is there's an amazing student athlete content out there, and we just want to continue to help monetize that and bring that to the masses, and then continue to help the collectives to keep on funding athletes.
Yeah, and I would say I think it's just going to help college sports keep growing. You're going to have more stars, you're going to have more high-profile athletes, which is going to attract big deals from media companies, sponsors, and everyone else. So I think it's a super exciting time for college sports. I think hopefully it also means that some will stay in college longer because they can make more money. They don't have to go pro, which again just raises the standard. I also selfishly hope that on the back of COVID, a lot of colleges are struggling, especially with the second, third tier sports, if I can put it that way, and programs are getting cut. So hopefully with more money in the system, it means that colleges can invest in keeping those other sports programs, because you can probably tell I'm not from the US. What you have here with college sports is so unique, and it's amazing to give so many kids a chance to keep playing at the elite level. Just helps them become, even better humans and in work, and forget about whether they ever turn pro. It's such a unique system, and you don't want to see that shrinking. The top could keep getting bigger, but you want the whole ecosystem to flourish because of this. So hopefully there's a way that this can happen. It actually takes a little bit of pressure maybe off the universities having to invest quite so much in their big programs, because the athletes are supported in other ways, and they can keep funding all the sports as well.
Yeah, I definitely think it helps athletes dream bigger than just, such a linear path. So I think it really helps them dream bigger.
And our CEO was in front of Congress on Tuesday, so there's a lot of things going on right now with that. But I agree with what the lady said. We've had several different athletes in different sports, tennis, track, a couple stars that had stuck around at Georgia and played an extra season or two because they were making some money. And there was a tennis guy that won the NCAA. He ended up finally leaving, but he stayed longer than he probably should have. We had a track star that stayed longer than he should have. But because we were able to take care of him, he was able to finish his degree and still be a college student somewhat as much as you can as a student athlete. So those things can now allow some of our student athletes and the honorary sport that you need to go pro as soon as you can, but now it's allowing them to have more options and more opportunities.
Amazing, and thank you for the great discussion here. And before we wrap, I just want to see, do we want to take any questions from, does anybody have questions? Let's go over there, Chris.
So this is fascinating. Thank you for sharing. My daughter is a student athlete at KU, and she's a girl. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm just kind of curious. She actually she's very selective about who she wants to be matched with, but she's doing it all herself. And so it's really important for her to authentically love the brand. And I don't know if that's if it's too big. So I'm kind of curious about the matching about this, because we've talked about at the local car dealership, she drives a classic Chevy truck. So that for her is yes, I would love to do that. And she talks about how some of the athletes aren't authentic, like they're happy to take the check. But so how does that matching happen? I'm curious.
We personally, we lean on a lot of our staff that are with be it the weight room staff, the analyst staff, the academic. We've got a couple of guys in football that are on the academic staff that are great friends of ours, and they know the players better than we do. They have a lot of interactions. I'll go to them and say, hey, what would this kid want to do? What would what's their personality? Personality is a good fit, and how they speak in front of a camera and things like that. And so it's just kind of sometimes it's luck draw, sometimes it's what you're looking for. We've got a kid that's a freshman who's about 6'6", 330, but his name is Big Baby. His nickname is Big Baby. And we had him go to the local Athens women's they packed diapers. He packed diapers, and now we're going to go to Pampers with him. Something like that. So it's just kind of, and as we work with our student athletes more, and they come to our office and we're doing new things, we are learning more about them to try that match. But that's hard. We've got 600 student athletes, so it's hard to know those things.
I'm just kind of curious, right? Like, which comes first? Is it the athlete picking the brand, or is it the brand picking the athlete? I guess was kind of like.
I think there's a little bit of both in there, right? Because one of the things that when we all partner and work on this is these kids are creating their own organic content. They're talking about the things that they love, their passions, their projects, and it allows them to be discovered and be accessible to brands. So, Jess, I think you're probably the closest to this in terms of how you work with advertisers through I&M. How are you seeing that work?
Yeah, we see it work both ways. For the example, we're talking about a car dealer. When we talk to them, they're like, we have someone on our staff who's obsessed with the University of Georgia. He knows every athlete. He knows who's up and coming, and so we lean on him. And, they talk about the example about the up and coming, football players with the story. And then in other cases, if we see organic content that's been made and it's a branding opportunity, then we go and pitch that. So I still think it goes both ways. I don't think that's just a NIL issue in terms of deciphering which brands take a deal. You see that in celebrity culture too, and you see some people who are doing all the endorsements and some who are very particular. I think as student athletes build their brand, they can become more picky. And they can demand a higher price point, but I still think it goes both ways. You can probably speak to this too.
Yeah, I think I agree. It definitely goes both ways, and sort of timing's everything too. An athlete may really want to be in a certain category with a brand, but they're not looking for anyone, and sort of vice versa. So it's certainly not one size fits all approach, but I think in general, being authentic and making sure you're a real fit for a brand, a long term will pay off. In the short term, you may not be able to afford to think like that. You maybe just need to take what's there to keep going. But if you can stay true to sort of who you are, and the authenticity will pay off in the end. But timing is kind of everything. So.
And I've told some of our brands that we've talked to, grab yourself a freshman.
Yeah.
You get your freshman that when most of people that come to a school at like UGA are, they all think they're going to be superstars. And so go grab a freshman. And that way you have them as they become a superstar, and then you already got a relationship with them. So you will probably get them cheaper when they're a junior All-American than you would have if you hadn't already got them on the brands.
I think you had a fun story too with some of the football players who love Jersey Mike's, and they're like, what about Jersey Mike's? It's like, let's go get them, film some content outside Jersey Mike's, let's go pitch them. Like, thinking beyond the athlete too, and if they really love a certain brand, like, create it, go get it, and we help support that.
Thank you. Okay. First of all, fantastic session. This is a new property that everybody's just learning about. I too am the mom of a student athlete, Northwestern lacrosse player. Jessica, you probably can relate to this. You told us about your experience in tennis and money to other sports. Steve, you talked about the football. Okay, we all know that's revenue, and love the stories. I love the fact that you got money for tennis players. You didn't mention you have an incredible gymnastics team there. You have other sports, whether it's volleyball that's getting a lot of play. Do you have an example of a brand besides football and basketball of where the athlete from one of these other sports, what gymnastics, did they pair How did they get NIL money? Are they getting it their share? Can you talk about,
You know, we've I talked about the women's basketball program.
Which is fantastic.
With that, yeah, that was amazing. We've been able to, our soccer player that transferred from USC, she got some companies up that she's done some things on her own, you know, not really through us, with some companies that she's around with, which is just north of Atlanta. She's done some personal things with them. And so we are seeing a lot more of the female student athletes have an initiative to do it on their own.
we can all say it's a good time to be a female athlete. It is here, we've arrived. I mean, it's a very good time to be a female
That's the
athlete.
beautiful thing about this. I mean, we actually have a great example. I didn't know what NIL was a year ago. And we had run a Walmart's Naked Beauty event. And as I was talking to a few of our partners in the space, like, well, you guys use a college student athlete in your Naked Beauty event. I had no idea. We used Chloe Mitchell, who is a volleyball player from Louisiana. And 6 months later, I was sitting there looking at the campaign and going, wow, we participated in NIL before we did it.
And it is, what Sophie said, this is helping the second and third tier sports, which is amazing. Give these kids
Nebraska just broke the volleyball record.
Yeah.
You know, Caitlin Clark and Iowa just broke the record for the largest women's basketball game ever watched in person. And so all those things and the brands and I know I miss football a lot, and I grew up just football, and I worked for the football team as a student, and I raised money. But now I have a 5-year-old daughter, and it has changed how I can look at those things too. I want to make sure she has that opportunity. And so I try to grow.
So I'm vested in lacrosse. So women's NCAA Final Four lacrosse outperformed the men's last year.
Love that.
I love it.
And it's in the Olympics now, at 8:28, lacrosse is in the Olympics.
Yes, it is.
There we go.
Looking good, bright future.
That's something strategically at our company is we're trying to, partner with collectives all over the country. We have a goal to work with over 100 collectives and to help, monetize that student athlete content, bring brand deals there. So I'm, like I said, I went to Wisconsin. They have the #1 women's volleyball team right now. I'm like, I need to get to Wisconsin and get that volleyball team. That's exciting for us. We do look at that as well.
When you talk about athletes, creating their own brand, is there like a baseline level of social media followers or any to become part of the collective? Let's say you're a freshman coming in, you're maybe in a big sport like football or a medium sport, but is there you're looking for, hey, this person needs to have at least 5,000 followers, 10,000 followers, anything like that?
We want to have them all, and we've got I've got a spreadsheet with them listed by followers for Instagram, TikTok, all those kind of things. It was like, and if somebody, if a marketing company reached out to me, I can have, if they have a number, then that way I kind of guidance. We have it updated so often, but no, we want to, as the collective, now our goal is to help every single student athlete. And again, like I mentioned, we started as a football collective, but now we're, and that's our revenue sport. And all the coaches know at UGA and most schools that if football is successful, it makes everybody else successful, including every single sport,
Yes.
the town, the university. Georgia, I will plug second one of the last few national championships. If anybody didn't know that, just wanted to point that out. But the amount of new businesses and ads, and the amount of applications to the university, which then drives up the average SAT score and GPA score for World News Report rankings for UGA academically goes up. And so our goal is to make that across the board for all our schools.
Question in the back.
So obviously not all athletes are content creators, want to be content creators. Some of them, don't like speaking to camera. What are your thoughts on some of the more unique NIL deals outside of social and content, more like an influencer route? What are the more unique partnerships you've seen?
So I can start with that, and I'll address it first by saying that one of our biggest missions is brand safety for the student athletes. Right, so that's where we don't really rely on social, right? Because in social, you can't really determine what content you're going to show up next to. So one of the things that we're trying to do is create more organic content, right? Whether that's highlights from the game, right? That's still your name, image, and likeness there, right? You're not directly speaking to the camera. You're doing community events. There's so many different ways for athletes to participate, and we're still seeing this evolve. But I think the number one thing that we think about in this space is let's protect that student athlete and the brand safety around them. They're young, they're just building that brand. So while we also want to protect the brands that we're partnering with, we still want to protect that student athlete first and foremost.
I want to add a question, comment, I think, to the last two questions. So one of the things that we can do is think about the media partners involved and distribution. So, for example, my company has Us Weekly Magazine, and we've been speaking to the panel members about this. So you can take a piece of content like what's in my gym bag, which is a piece of editorial that people care about, and it can be in print and static if they're not read on camera, or it could be video, it could be both. So now there's authenticity, because it's genuinely what's in the bag, and the brands are going to want to, like say there's a L'Oreal mascara. L'Oreal's going to want to promote that and put that media out in the world and distribute it. So it doesn't really matter if they have Instagram followers, because now there's a distribution channel through a media partnership, and then it can be designed to what suits that athlete in terms of, are they great on camera, are they better in static photos, and you can really stitch it together in the right ways, and it just has so many legs.
Very well said, and I appreciate you bringing that up, because Us Weekly is one of our premier publishing partners as we launch this, and like I said, the focus is to move away from social into more of a closed ecosystem of premium publishers where we're going to get exposure to these student athletes, right, and give them a voice and let them tell their own story, whether that's in front of a camera or a static image. So very, very well said.
And then you can source the advertisers that are authentic to that
I didn't know if we could give away our secrets, but this is what I'm most excited about. Or I went to the NIL space. So thank you, Mickey.
Play devil's advocate, that you don't need an NIL deal to do that deal with that girl.
Right.
You do not.
Yeah.
What's in my bag is her. Or again, just, because you're not gonna use the marks of a bulldog, you're not gonna do anything. And that person, and then what you're just doing is just saying, you could just leapfrog a collective or whatever, and find a cool, young, athletic lady or man who matches, who might have some level of influence.
But this is an easy button, right?
It is an easy button, yeah. But it's not a button that needs to be pushed.
There's a lot of different models in NIL right now, do exactly what you just said. I think what we're trying to solve for with like collectives and the way that we're doing this is the accessibility to all student athletes. So giving them a platform, to give them a voice, they're going to create as much of their own organic content as they want to be found, right? So to your point, they can absolutely go that route. What we're trying to do is give them the most opportunity possible. Yeah. I know we had another question on this side, right?
Yeah, just really quickly, how do you see NIL and impacting pro sports? So for instance, like I would just see Caleb Williams, there's a lot of talk about him holding out because he has enough money to support himself through NIL. So how do you see that affecting the future of pro sports?
I don't see it affecting football. I think that's just, honestly, with that, that's all talk, because I have a good idea what he's making, but what he's doing is delaying his second contract as an NFL player. His second contract as an NFL player is going to be worth, $400 million, and so he would be delaying that a year, and you don't never know as a pro athlete what's going to happen in that year, and so he won't do that. That would be some bad advice from his people, and that's what we tell our student athletes, that especially football guys, the NFL contract is nothing. Leaves and bounds larger than the NIL contract. Yes, we've had some guys start starting center state and shit because of NIL, and he was not going to make any more money than he's making through us. But I don't see it really affecting on that level. It will affect right now. It'll affect the WNBA a little bit. Angel Reese, right there from LSU, I think she's going to stick around, but she's probably making more than she can in WNBA. She'll be able to take those endorsements with her eventually as well. But Caitlin Clark and some of these wonderful women that are changing the game, they can say more, and then it's going to be up to the WNBA at that point that, hey, we're losing women for a year or two of their they playing for us. we need to set the bar to do things the right way and produce more revenue, which I think they will as that platform increases and gets more budget.
I think that's a great point you said, though, that the endorsements will follow them, so, hopefully then WNBA starts to get more sponsorships, we get bigger contracts, and I think that happens, that's a good route.
I think it's gonna give more exposure to the female pro athletes and those female pro sports like the WNBA and beyond. I really do. The numbers are just getting bigger that we see at the collegiate level, and people are gonna follow those others. I know we're on time, so I want to say thank you to Brand Innovators for having us and hosting this
This was
panel.
fun, thank you.
And this group of great panelists are going to have a better company up here today, so thank you, everybody.